Right, this lesson is going to be on multiplying polynomials. So we're going to be multiplying by monomials, binomials, and then a trinomial by a binomial. It's really the same concept. So let's look at this first one. I picked out just a couple from each section. Just a monomial times a monomial. And we've done this before in an earlier lesson. Let's just go ahead and do it here. So we have negative 2y to the fourth times 5y cubed. Go ahead and just multiply that out. We're going to get negative 10. So negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. And then we have what variable of y. And then what do we do when we're multiplying like bases? What do we do with their exponents? Good. We add them together. So negative 10y to the seventh. That's all we got. Now, if we look at number 6, pause the video here, see if you can do this one. All right, welcome back. So we're going to go ahead and say negative 7 times a negative understood 1. I'll pencil that in. That's going to be a positive 7. And I have m to the what? I've got a 4 and a 3. Add those together, I get a 7. N to the what? 2 plus understood 1 is 3. The 7m to the 7th n cubed. Moving on. A monomial times any sort of polynomial. And this is using that distributive property that we've had before. Except now we have a chance of having a variable, a term with a variable here, the monomial. And all we do is we take that term and multiply it or distribute it to each term in the polynomial. And so with that said, we're going to have negative 2y squared times 4y cubed is going to be a negative 8y to the what? Careful, to the fifth. So it's tempting maybe to multiply those exponents. But remember, we just add the exponent, just like we did up here in number 2. Then move on to the next one. Negative 2 times a negative 3. Careful with your signs here. Plus 6y to the what? Good. Third. And then the last one, we have negative 2y squared times positive 6 is going to be a negative 12y squared. Now, I always take a second glance to make sure I can't combine any like terms. If we can't combine any like terms up here, then I won't be able to do it here. But just in case, take a second look. It's also good to write these in standard form where we have these in descending order. So we notice we have our exponents go from 5 to 3 to 2. Okay, in this section, they're pretty much all done the same way. About a binomial times a binomial. Now, this is one topic that a lot of students remember from high school, the FOIL method. They remember the word FOIL, but I've never really been a big fan of it. I really recommend that you just multiply every term from the first binomial to every term in the second binomial. This FOIL breaks down as soon as you have something other than binomials. Again, recall it stands for first, outer, inner, last. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter what order you go in. So we're going to have here 2y times y. There's going to be what? 2y squared. And then move to the next one. 2y times 6. Yep, plus 12y. And then shift over to the next term. Negative 4 times y. Going to be minus 4y. Negative 4 times 6 is a minus 24. And always glance to see if you have any common terms, any like terms, and we do. We often do, just the nature of how these are set up. We can combine these like terms here. And so this is going to be what? 2y squared, and then we have 12y minus 4y is plus 8y minus 24. We cannot combine those terms. It's written in standard form, so I'm looking good. Now let's do one more. Pause the video here if you have not already. Do one of these on your own and come back. All right, welcome back. So what are we going to do now? Same thing we did before. We're going to multiply, distribute through. So 2x times x is 2x squared. And then 2x times y is plus 2xy. Move to the next term. 3y times x is a minus 3. Now, I'm going to pull a fast one on you. I'm going to say xy. Really, it's 3yx, but that commutative property allows us to switch the order. And I typically write these in alphabetical order when I have multivariables, and it also matches with this one. And then the last one, minus 3y times y is a minus 3y squared. And notice what we have here. Our middle terms, which just the nature of how these are set up, often give a chance to combine these. Not every time, but often you do. Let's go ahead and finish this up. So just rewrite that first term, 2x squared, and then 2xy minus 3xy is a minus xy, or minus 1xy is fine. Minus 3y squared. Circle that one. I like circle. If I ever have more than one step, it's good practice to go ahead and circle your answer. And there we go. And let's just glance at these other ones. Nothing really different in the other ones. It's good practice to do. And again, as I mentioned before, have a beginner's mindset. If you remember doing these, go ahead and practice them. Get that to where it is just natural for you to do, and you don't have to struggle for it when you're doing a homework or test. Okay, let's do another one. This is sort of larger polynomials, and we can do this, any of these. I've just picked one at random, number 22. We have two trinomials, and we're multiplying together. So we have 3 terms times 3 terms. So I know at the very end, well, at least this first step, I should have 9 terms. So take the a times a squared. That's going to be what? A to the 4th. I add the exponents. And then a times a minus a cubed. And a squared times 2. It's going to be plus 2a squared. I hope I'm leaving myself enough room. And then move to the next term. We have a times a squared. Be plus a cubed. And then a times a minus a squared. And then a times 2 plus 2a. Okay. This is the last one, a minus 1 distributed to each one of these. That's going to be minus a squared. Minus 1 times minus a is a plus 1a, or just a plus a. And then a minus 1 times 2 is minus 2. Okay, so now I usually do this in standard form. I take the highest degree term. We have a to the 4th, and just start combining like terms. So we have a to the 4th. Do I have any like terms with that guy? I don't have any. I just go ahead and usually cross that off, so I don't have to look at it anymore. Move to the next term, a cubed. Do I have any other a cubed terms? I sure do. And a cubed minus a cubed, those just cancel out. That's nice. How about the next term, a squared? So I've got a 2a squared, and then I've got minus 1a squared minus 1a squared. So all those actually cancel out. Because we have 2 minus 1 is 1, then minus another 1 is 0. Well, that's nice. Let's move to the next one. How about 2a? The 2a plus a is 3a. Those go away, and then a constant term, minus 2. So you've got to be really, that word I've used before in class, pedantic. You have to pay attention to all those little details when coming through here. You're almost like a bookkeeper, just making sure you're keeping up. And it looks good. We'll do this in the same section, special products. We are squaring a binomial. Now, this is one of the most missed problems in all of our algebra, is squaring a binomial. So when we square a binomial, recall, a plus b squared. What does it mean to square something? Well, it means that we just multiply it by itself. We have 2 copies of a plus b, for instance. And then we can use our FOIL. And so this is going to be a times a is a squared, plus ab, plus ba, and again, I like to write it as ab, and then plus b squared. Now, 1ab plus 1ab is 2ab. So this comes out to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Now, we did a lot of this in class already, just sort of re-deriving that formula. So when you're doing these, you can use that pattern on this, or you can just multiply it out. And I'll show you both ways. So we can just go ahead and say x plus 5 squared is x plus 5 times x plus 5. And then what's going to happen here? I'm going to have x times x is x squared, plus x times 5 is 5x, plus 5 times x is also 5x, and then 5 times 5 is 25. And notice I'm able to combine these middle terms. I often am able to. So we're going to have x squared plus 10x plus 25. So I'll be honest, in this class, this is the way I actually recommend you do it. Now, if you're going on to pre-calc, business calc, applied calc, regular calc, you'll want to know the formula. These come up all the time, and you want to be able to just work that out mentally pretty quick. But I think this here is pretty good. And mentally, what will we do mentally? Well, we square the first term, x squared. The product of a and b doubled, so 5 times x is 5x, doubled, 10x. And then square the last term, 25. So we get the same thing. This does require writing down a couple things, but boy, when students do this, they rarely miss it. Now let's do another one. Let's do one where we got a minus. And so let's just go ahead and write 2 copies of this. Hope I left myself enough room here. So 7b minus 3 times 7b minus 3. So 7b times 7b is 49b squared. And then 7b times a minus 3 is minus 21b minus another 21b plus 9. Now, I've got this middle terms I can combine. They do not cancel out. Be careful. It's helpful to say plus a negative. So a negative 21b plus a negative 21b is a negative 42b. So I'm going to have 49b squared minus 42b plus 9. And the only difference between that and when we have a minus is this middle term ends up being negative. Okay, let's do 2 more. Difference of squares. So here, we're just multiplying this out. X plus 5 times x minus 5. There is a pattern here. X times x is x squared minus 5x. And then 5 times x is plus 5x. And then 5 times minus 5 is minus 25. Now, what do you notice happens to these middle terms? Well, they cancel out, don't they? They'll always cancel out. And so when mathematicians find generalizations, they like to leverage that. Just like here, when we have, in general, any a plus b times a minus b. When these are the same numbers, they're just off by a sign. This ends up being a squared minus b squared. So that's a pattern we could go to. As soon as we see that, we could just go ahead and write x squared plus minus 25. At this level, I really recommend that you don't do that, that you just multiply it out. I'll leave that up to you. Let's do one more. How about 3y plus 1, 3y minus 1? Now, if you're pretty good at this, you can go and write the answer down. Here's where the problems come, is if you're not careful, you're not pedantic, that word I used before, 3 minus 1, 3y minus 1. When I multiply this out, 3y times 3y is 9y squared. And then minus 3y plus 3y minus 1. These middle terms cancel out. I'm left with 9y squared minus 1. What I see very often is that the final answer students will put 3y squared minus 1. They won't square the coefficient when they're just doing that in their head. But when we multiply it out this way, that's less likely to happen. Still happens, but less likely to happen. If you go through these practice problems, that you'll get those mistakes out of your system, I think, so to speak. So, well, I hope that helps.